بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. On the desk I have a few books, and one of them is called من كنوز الفتاوى شبهات وإشكالات حول بعض الأحاديث والآيات. It says من كنوز الفتاوى and has a number 2, from the treasure chest of fatwas, from the treasure chest of fatwas, tongue twister, min kunuz al-fatawa, much easier in Arabic, a treasure chest of fatawa, and this is number 2 in the series, and this treasure chest is shubuhatun wa ishkalat حول بعض الأحاديث والآيات. It says shubuhat, doubtful issues, ambiguous issues, wa ishkalat, and problematic issues regarding certain hadiths and regarding certain verses from the Quran. Ayat which seem to conflict with other ayat, or ayat which seem to conflict with hadiths, hadiths which seem to conflict with ayat, or hadiths which seem to conflict with other hadiths, other prophetic narrations. That's what this is about. So it's a compilation of fatawa regarding these types of issues. Okay? It says here, اللجنة الدائمة للبحوث العلمية والإفتاء. And these fatawas have been compiled, this treasure chest has been taken, or these fatawa have been taken from the following chests. The chest of these ulama from this or that which is called al-lajna da'ima. First is Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz rahimahullah, and Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, Sheikh Abdul Razak Afifi rahimahullah, Sheikh Abdullah ibn Abdurrahman al-Jibreen hafidhahullah. Obviously this was written during his lifetime, he passed away, and Sheikh Salih bin Fawzan al-Fawzan hafidhahullah. I'dad Dar al-Thabati lil-Nashri wal-Tawziya. And this is prepared, compiled, and published by a printing house called Dawa al-Thabat. Dawa al-Thabat. So the book, that's what the book is about. The book was first printed in 2001 in Saudi Arabia, and obviously I purchased the book when I was there as well. After the introduction, it begins with a different fatwa. First fatwa is concerning, alright, we'll skip that one. I just want to read one and not 2. So the idea of the book, obviously when there are fatwa sessions, then they ask many questions. They ask about anything, whatever comes to the questioner's mind. And the mufti, or the one who's answering the questions, will give the answer. So if he's asked 20 questions, or 30 questions, or 100 questions, then there's a percentage of those questions that are going to be on fiqh. A percentage of those questions are going to be on issues of creed and belief. A percentage of those questions will return to adab. A percentage of those questions will be about issues that are problematic. Ayat mushkilat. Verses that seem to be problematic. So these people, they took from the fatawa, the different fatwas, and they compiled them and put them in one book. Min kunuz al-fatawa. Because if you listen to one tape or one lecture, you may not necessarily have a concentrated topic. There are going to be various different sporadic fatwas. Everyone understand this? Type. So, one fatwa that they ask about, let's say for example, the book is also about 170 pages long as well. So it's not that long, but it's long enough. Let's say, for example, a problem that many people have, whether it's with the Quran or with the Hadith. It says here, let's say for example the issue of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Naam? The issue of the Day of Judgment. Naam? The questioner basically asks about certain ayat that affirm Allah Azza wa Jalla's questioning. That the sons of Adam, they will be questioned on the Day of Judgment. Naam? Allah will ask them. And then he mentions another ayah in which Allah Azza wa Jal, He negates any questioning, in which no one will be asked on that day. No men, nor any jinn will be questioned on that day. And that fatwa was posed to Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he basically answered the question by saying, is that the Day of Judgment is a very long day. And the Day of Judgment is of thousands of years. As Allah says in the Quran, the angels, they ascend to Allah. And then he speaks on how that the Quran, the ayats of the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, none of them conflict or they're not contradictory to each other, to any other ayah. Okay, so the point is, whether we read it or not, what I wanted from that fatwa was the concept of how many people they say that the hadith are contradictory, The hadith don't make sense. The hadiths are false and they're fake because one hadith affirms something, another hadith negates that same thing. Nah? And many people, they don't realize and they don't understand that if you take that stance and if you say that, then the same also applies to the what? The Quran. Everyone understand? There are many other issues as well. So, inshallah ta'ala, if you get a chance to buy the book, I don't know if the book is still in print. It's printed over 17 years ago, which is not a very long time ago. But oftentimes, certain books, when they're printed, they're only printed with a certain amount of copies. And sometimes it's easier to find an older book than it is to find a book 10 or 15 years ago. True book knacks know about this. It may be easier to find a book written 1,000 years ago, or 100 years ago, or 50 years ago than it is to find a book written 15 years ago. If you walk into the bookstore and say, I want a copy of Sahih Bukhari, you have hundreds of copies, all different versions to pick from. And Bukhari's book is written over 1,000 years ago. And if you went to the bookstore and you said, give me Shubuhat wa Ishkalat Hawla Ba'd al-Ahadithi wa Ayat, it's a big possibility that what, Abdul Raqib? You won't find the book. Everyone understand this? And if you can't find the book, then maybe you can get the PDF. And if there isn't a PDF, then perhaps someone here can volunteer to make a PDF, so everyone have access to this beneficial book. Khairan inshallah. Alright, with that being said, let's get started with any questions that we may have tonight. Ahmed, fadal.
How do we understand how Allah says in the Dua in Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and then how like the Sahaba, they would like run away from giving fatawa and like positions of leadership?
Question says, Allah says in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and how many Sahaba ran away from fatawa and ran away from speaking or leading or doing things. The Quran says, oh Allah, make us an imam, make us a leader or make us leaders for the muttaqeen. And what many of the Sahaba did. Right. First and foremost is, and the reason why I smile is because that's a question in this book, but not with the Sahaba. And what they said, but a narration that says, Allahumma ja'alni abdan khafiyya. Narration says, oh Allah, please make me a hidden servant. Please make me a servant that's humble and hidden. Is that sahih? Is that authentic? What's important is that it's a narration. Okay? Everyone understand this? Shaykh ibn Baz, he answered that question here in this booklet. So you can already see the benefit of the what? Of the book. Right. With that being said, we have a problem. And the first problem is the Quran, the clear, direct verses from the Quran are not to be opposed or not to be made a means of conflict with anything else unless it's revelation. And revelation is only of two things, Quran and Sunnah. So what the Sahaba did or said, some of them is never to be made a means of conflicting with the actual Quran. As far as the consensus of the Sahaba, what they agreed upon unanimously, that this is the proper understanding, then that's a different story. As one of the people of knowledge said, كَمَا رَضِيتَ بِإِجْمَاعِهِمْ فِي التَّنزِيلِ فَرْضَ بِإِجْمَاعِهِمْ فِي التَّأْوِيلِ. He says, just like you're pleased with the actual revelation that they brought you, then be pleased with the interpretation of that revelation. How do we know what the Quran is except for because of what? The Sahaba. This is the Quran. This verse is not from the Quran. This is what the Prophet said. كما أنك رضيت بإجماعهم في التنزيل. This is what the Quran is because of the Sahaba, Uthman's canon. This is his mushaf. This is what the ulama, the Sahaba, they agree with him, etc. Now, that narration says, so be pleased with their what? Consensus concerning its interpretation. So if the Sahaba agree upon something and this is the proper understanding, then it's not for anyone to come along and say, I have a different understanding. Everyone understand this? However, the problem is figuring out whether they agreed upon it or not. And a systematic error is to take an isolated athar or two or three and then say all the Sahaba had this understanding. Everyone understand this? So just like you find this companion running away from the fatwa, you find another narration of this companion giving the fatwa. Abu Hurairah had over 800 students that learned from him in Medina. That's a lot of people. How many students did Ibn Abbas have? How many students did Jabir ibn Abdullah have? How many men went to visit Aisha in her home and speak to her and ask her questions? So therefore, there's a balance. There's a what? There's a balance. And there is no doubt, he who is beneficial for the people, or she who is beneficial for the people, helps out the people, and teaches with sincerity, with ikhlas, that person is more beneficial than someone who's hiding in a house making dhikr, crying over their sins. That's good for you, but that does not help and serve the what? The ummah. Everybody clear on this or not? So there's no contradiction between this and between what? And between that. But it depends on the person. Some people are not made for the public eye. It will ruin them. It will what? It will ruin them. They can't take the pressure. It's hard to be speaking in front of someone, perfecting your craft, and at the same time not trying to show off. At the same time doing it for Allah and only. That's difficult. Everyone is not made for that. Everyone doesn't have the knowledge. Everyone doesn't have the ability for that. But those who do, that needs to be done. And the others, they can remain in their homes. They can be humble. They can be quiet. I can give sadaqah. No one knows how much money I donate. But there are other people who have to be what? On the what? The forefront. He's donated. He's the benefactor of this masjid. Or there's nothing wrong with that. Turn this or not. The danger lies, Ahmed, in the people who attack other individuals. And they say, Fulan loves the chair. And Fulan loves the microphone. Okay, tell you. Maybe he does. But right now, as we speak, you're refuting this person. What are you using, Abu Sa'id? A what? And you're sitting in a what? So everything that you say about me or this person can be what? Reversed on you. Why are you talking? Fulan, Sufyan al-Thawri, Imam Ahmed will cry. He would run, he would do this. So why do we even what? Hear your voice right now. No, not even that. Why are you talking? Everyone understand this? So it's hypocritical. And the people that use these different athar to attack their opponents. Everyone understand this? Imam Ahmed was afraid of doing this. So therefore, it's haram for this one to do it. And this is one of the points they brought against Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa, Allah's mercy be upon him, had a lot of controversy surrounding him. Many people refuted him. They spoke about him. Many people. And hadith and fiqh, even his aqidah. And you'll be shocked when you actually read Abu Hanifa's life. Some of the stuff they actually said about him. It was never ever a consensus that he's from the four imams or he's an imam. Many people, they made severe jarh on him. But one of the points that they brought up against Abu Hanifa was what? Is that Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, they said he gave a lot of fatawa. He would speak often, he would talk often. He would give his ra'i, his opinion oftentimes. So from those ulama who defended Abu Hanifa later on, they said, okay, just because Sufyan al-Thawri ran from it, doesn't mean Abu Hanifa had to. Just because Fulan was too scared or afraid or I didn't want to slip up, that doesn't mean Abu Hanifa was forced with his level of wara and piety. Because someone what? Had to do it. It's a dirty job, but what? Someone has to do it. If all of us in the room say, okay, I don't want to speak. Lost. Understood or not? I don't want to talk. He doesn't want to give the fatwa. He doesn't want to say it. He don't say it. 20 people. Then what? Then who will learn? Who will be taught? How would Islam, the Quran and Sunnah be passed down? Everyone understand this? So that can never ever be absolute. Let alone the fact that some of those actions are in contradiction to Quran and Sunnah. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ. Allah says, and when Allah took the covenant from the people of the scripture, and that covenant said what? لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ. you will certainly make it clear to the people. وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ, and you will not hide it. So that's what the Quran says. So Sufyan al-Thawri, or this Imam or that Imam, that's what? That's what Allah says. Allah said, do not hide what? Don't hold knowledge. The hadiths clearly tell us not to do what? Not to hide knowledge. You don't understand this? So there's a balance. There's a what? There's a balance. And every time you find Imam Ahmed running from this and this companion, you're going to find another narration in which he actually what? Spoke and passed on ilm. And if that wasn't the case, then how will we even know what Sufyan al-Thawri or Ahmed or Ibn Abbas said about not giving a fatwa? Unless they did what? They spoke. So, I know that's not what you want or you intend, but this is a widespread understanding among many people today who call themselves Salafi and claim and attach themselves to Salafiyya and Ahl Sunnah. They have this perverted, sick, twisted mindset. Is there anyone who's not with them? I thought apply to them. But never ever apply what? To them. This scholar, they say, Fulan, he wants to go against the ulama. He wants to butt heads with the ulama. He's this. Have you not read Sufyan al-Thawri and Fulan? He who abandons the scholars. He who doesn't sit with the scholars. He who kind of, they'll dog their opponent out. But themselves, or their sheikh, or this sheikh, who does the exact same thing, they say, no, that doesn't apply here. You can't say that. Everyone understand this? That's pure nifaq. Hypocrisy. So be mindful of that. The Quran and Sunnah don't need anything else. The other things need the Quran and the Sunnah. Everyone understand this? Once more, the consensus of the Sahaba, the consensus of the Salaf al-Salih, it's not an issue of discrepancy among us. That's clear. What they agree upon. But what they agree upon doesn't mean it's what? Fulan said this or Fulan said that. Scattered individual things. Clear on this or not? And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. I won't answer your question unless you give me some orange juice with ice. So what's the ruling on taking money for fatwas, right? I'm charging you orange juice. Fadl.
What's the ruling on replying or someone coming in as you're reading the Quran, you're in the middle of the verse, say Assalamu alaikum, what's the ruling on replying to them and stopping what you're reciting?
Right, we start the timer. Question is regarding stopping your recitation of the Quran and replying to someone who gives you the salams. If there's a group of people, you don't have to give the salams back. Because returning the salams is fard kifaya. It's an obligation upon the whole and not the individual. So for 10 people in the masjid and one brother says, wa alaikum assalam, khalas, keep reading the Quran. If you're the only individual, then you must reply and give them the salams. That's obligatory. That's mandatory to return the salams if no one else what? Does it. And if you choose to do it, which is a virtue, you stop and you go back to reading the Quran, la bas. That's tayyib, that's fine. What's important is to be mindful of a class going on. Do you give salams to everyone in the sitting in the class or just to the teacher? Cutting someone off and that which they're doing. It's nothing wrong with giving salams, even someone who's praying. As the Sunnah teaches us, it's permissible to give salams to what? Someone who's praying. And you return the salams as well by raising their hand. Wallahu a'lam. No. Jazakallah khairan. May Allah accept it. طيب تفضل. تفضل خالد. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Greetings to all hadith disciples and disciples in the lands of Riyadh. With regards to what other books should the English-speaking Muslim have in their home or their homes? First and foremost is the Quran al-Kareem. There's no question about that. There's a narration that is mentioned in one of the versions of Jami' al-Tirmidhi. One of the versions of Jami' al-Tirmidhi. And this narration says, it says, مَنْ كَانَ هَذَا الْكِتَابُ فِي بَيْتِهِ فَكَأَنَّمَا فِي بَيْتِهِ نَبِيٌّ يَتَكَلَّمُ أو كما جاء. It says, anyone who has this book in his house, as if he has a prophet speaking to him in his house. Anyone who has this book, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, in his home, as if he's a prophet, what? Speaking in his house. So in the College of Hadith, this athar was brought up, And some of the shabab, some of the young students, the colleagues in the class, they say, Ya Sheikh, هذا غير صحيح. It says Tirmidhi never said this. The isnad is da'if, it's not authentically attributed to Tirmidhi. The teacher says, tayyib, even if it is, this is true speech. That Tirmidhi's book is so comprehensive and so thorough, as if there's a what? A prophet in his home speaking to him. So the point of the story is what? Is that you should have books of hadith in your household, for English and for Arabic. And there are certain books which are better than others and more thorough than others. One of the most thorough books is that of Tirmidhi. Of course, there's the Riyadh Salihin, there's the Bulugh al-Maram, okay? There's the summarized Sahih Bukhari, summarized Sahih Muslim, there's the Ibn Kathir. You have these different books like this, but we don't hold anything mandatory that a Muslim has to have in his home except for the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because everything else is extracted from those two sources. This book, this Aqidah book, this fiqh book, this tafsir book. Everyone understand this? But just speaking openly, is that what, a minute or 2 minutes? That was 2 minutes? That wasn't 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes. Fine. Next question. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I plan, inshaAllah ta'ala, to make my first visit to the UK, inshaAllah, hopefully this fall. Bi-idhnillah. Bi-idhnillah. If Allah wills, maybe September, maybe October. As soon as I know something definite, bi-idhnillah ta'ala, we'll try to make an announcement. That way that the brothers and the sisters have the ability to make their way to that location. But I will put out a disclaimer, and I'll say this openly right now. My loyalty is for Allah, His Messenger, and the believers. So when I go to the UK, and if I go to this masjid or that center or this one or that place, my loyalty is what? For Allah, His Messenger, and the believers. Are we clear on this or not? So it may be a place in which a person may say, well, I don't go to that masjid. Or why did you choose to go to this masjid? Now I can foresee this coming already. Why would you choose to go here? Why? This? When we went to Guyana, this is what they said. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me know? Wallahi, I know the president of Guyana. You could have been on TV. You could have been doing this. You could have been doing that. Everyone said this. After we were what? In Guyana. All of the time, let's go to Guyana. No one was to be found. Everyone understand this? So oftentimes you have to just break the ice. Okay? So inshallah ta'ala, if Allah gives us life, I plan hopefully to go to UK more often because I know many, many disciples there. And we appreciate all of the support that you give us. Wallahi. So, business out, we'll try to go more often. But the first trip is never ever going to be like the what? The most perfect and refined trip. And obviously it's impossible for me to be in every place at every time. And I don't have the ability, nor do I have the care and the concern to get caught up in petty Dawa squabbles. Everybody clear on this? Petty what? Dawa squabbles. This one, that one, filan, that doesn't concern me. That doesn't what? That does not concern me. I'm going to visit. What I'm going to talk about and speak about, I can guarantee by Allah's permission, it will be based off the Quran and Sunnah, inshallah. The other personal issues in this one, that one, that doesn't concern me. Secondly, I do not believe that it is haram. I don't believe, I could be mistaken, but I do not believe that it's haram to go to this masjid and that masjid. If there are issues or errors or mistakes, or everyone does, I do not believe in that. That you can't go there because of this. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's sahih. I don't believe that that's strong and sound from Quran and Sunnah and the ijma' of the Salaf. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he went to the Khawarij. Were they from Ahl Bidah or not? Without a question they were. Planning to kill the Sahaba. And he went to them and debated with them and spoke with them and talked with them. Everyone understand this? And when he went with them, what did he say to them? Did he go to them and say, Antum Ahl Bidah, Antum Kilabun Nar, Antum Sharr Qatna Tahta Dim As-Sama, Antum Kada? Did he say that? He spoke with them and he asked them a question. He says, what's the problem that you have with Uthman? A respectful question. Everyone understand this? And there are many other proofs and evidences as well. And others may feel differently. Scholars, students of knowledge, that's tayyib. I'm only responsible for what I believe in my heart. And if I'm mistaken about that, that's between me and Allah. And if I'm right about that, then alhamdulillah for that. So just because I go to a masjid or a center, it does not mean that I have to agree with that person and see eye to eye with them on A to Z. Rather, what type of Islam is that in which everybody sees eye to eye on every single minute thing? Did the Sahaba even do that? Let's ask ourselves a question. Did the Sahaba agree on every single issue? When we read the hadiths and the stories, we can benefit the what? The opposite. Is that many issues they didn't what? Agree on. Okay? So the concept of you can't go into a place unless it's like this and like that, somebody could possibly say that these principles have been made up to destroy Islam and to destroy the Muslims and to hinder and stifle the Sunnah spreading. One could possibly say this because one narration says every year will get worse. The people will never agree. They'll differ. And then they come and they say, you can't do this, you can't go here, there is no dawah, there is no jihad, there is until it's everything in agreement. That's a total what? It's oxymoron now. We believe that the Muslims will never ever what? Agree on everything. And we also believe that you can't make any ta'awun, you can't cooperate with anyone unless you do what? Agree with them. So that means that the cooperation among the Muslims, dawah, jihad, fi sabilillah, whatever it is, it would never what? It would never happen. So how is that from Allah? Everyone, how is that what? How is that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, core issues, different story. Core issues is what? Different story. Major blatant issues, different story. Propagating this, supporting that platform, the details. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be based off of the masalih and the mafasid. It's going to be based off of the harms and the benefits, the pros and the cons. And obviously, pros and cons are always going to be subjective from person to what? Person. You say don't go, and I say what? Go. Let alone if we make up myths. It's a mafsada and you go into this masjid. أنت تكثر سوادهم أنت كذا يظن البعض كذا. No, who says that? هذه مفاسد مظنونة ومعي أنا مصالح متحققة يعني ثابتة. I have pros that without a question are real. I'm going to this masjid, they want to benefit, they want to learn, they want to ask questions, I want to spread the dawah, and I'm keeping someone else out of this masjid or this conference that's 10 times worse. These pros are what? Confirmed. Your cons are what? Possible. Someone will go there and they'll think that you're with them, they'll think that you agree with them, they'll think that it's okay, they'll think kada. Maybe or what? Maybe not. So what has more precedence and common sense now? The maslaha that is clear and strong, or the mafsada which is what? Possible. And oftentimes people, they live in a world of myths. Oh, the people, no one is going to think that or say that. Everyone knows that this scholar who goes to this country every year, they know what he's about. They know what country he comes from. They know how he dresses. They know what books he teaches. No one's going to think that he's agreeing with this. And no, who thinks that? That's a myth. And only thing you have to do to make a lie true is do what? Say it enough times. And that is exactly what has happened in the Dawa scene. People just make up stuff. And they keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And next thing you know, they say, oh, that's the way of Ahlul Sunnah. And that's not the way of what? Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Everyone understand this? So this is just a disclaimer for the UK or any other issue in which people, they say, well, Mufti is okay, but he's with Ahlul Bidah. Mufti is okay, or he's with the Hizbis. Mufti is okay, but he goes to this masjid and he goes to that masjid. I have no problem with him, except that he teaches that masjid taqwa. He shouldn't be teaching that masjid taqwa. I have no problem except that he goes to NJ Dawa, or he does this and does that. If that's how you feel, and you're basing off of ilm and knowledge, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khairan. I respect you for your opinion. No, for sure, we don't agree with that. And we would never do something publicly, outwardly, and blatantly that we feel is what? Haram. If as one of the Salaf, he said, لو أن للذنوب رائحة لما جلسني أحد. He says, if sins had a stench, no one would sit next to me. If sins could be smelled, no one what? Meaning, I hide my sins. And just because you don't see them don't mean that they what? They don't exist. If they had a smell, you would what? So why would I do something publicly that I feel is what? Haram. Now, when we say, all right, well, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. You're not following the ulama. You're not following salaf. We say, whoa, slow down for a second. Do you think Do you have enough respect for your brother in Islam? Not this, that, just your brother in Islam. Do you think I'll be stupid enough to do something publicly and I haven't studied and read and discussed it and researched it? Do you think I would do that? If you feel that about your Muslim brother, that's a great deal of disrespect. To feel that you're going to just do what? Go somewhere and you just went against all of the ulama. It's a crystal clear issue. There's no proof. There's no evidence. You have no fatwa, no faham, nothing. Who thinks like that? Are we understand this or not? So this is a very serious and dangerous issue. And we're already spoken about it too much. So therefore, we do things based off of what we believe. If that makes you upset, or Sheikh Fulan says the opposite, or this Dawa group, or this, I'm sorry. Everybody understand this? I was not taught by my teachers in Medina to care about people and what they think and what they feel. Especially people that are considered to be petty people. Everybody understand this? People that are known for not having actual scientific research. Someone as a person of ilm, that's a different story. That's a what? Different story. But these people here fighting and arguing and these squabbles and this one, you can't live your life worrying about what they say about you and how they feel about you. You'll go nowhere. Just like those who say, don't drink this, don't eat that, this has sugar in it, this will give you cancer, you'll die from this. You won't drink nothing. The glass has chemicals in it. The water is not spring water. You'll die, you'll starve to death. If you worry about every single what? Piece of food and drink. Everyone understand this? So this is brief. Bikhtisar. Whether it's pertaining to the UK or America. So hopefully, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, we will do what? Go in the fall. And inshallah, we'll try our best to go as much as we possibly can. And we'll try our best to visit different centers and different markazes. And when I go there, I'm not owned or indebted to what? Any one place. Everyone understand this? Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Right. As far as the question, and I'm sorry for rambling or ranting, as one may say, but I felt that it was what? Necessary to be said. I thought that it was necessary to be said. Now, is it best to make a second Hajj voluntarily or to pay for someone else's Hajj? Me personally, I would say I think you should pay for someone else's Hajj. If you've made Hajj already and you felt that it was a good Hajj, you had the knowledge, you did it properly. Of course, perfection is for Allah, but you felt like it was a good Hajj, a strong Hajj, and there are other brothers who need to make Hajj, and you have the money to give them, why not? But if you felt that the Hajj that you made wasn't that strong, you didn't know that much, you were following the people, or you kept staring at women. It's reality. You kept thinking about women. You kept bumping into women, making tawaf. You were following this fatwa. You really weren't really focused and concentrated. Then perhaps it's best to make another Hajj yourself. Everyone understand this? But if you feel confident, inshallah, there was a sound Hajj, pay for someone else the reward of you sending someone to the lands of Mecca and Medina. Only Allah knows what da'ah they may make for you. Only Allah knows how that would change their heart. They may become a better Muslim. They may come back to the UK, And all of those good deeds, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, hopefully you get a piece of them. And Allah knows best. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So question comes from Munich, Germany. What is the wisdom behind the Hadith Disciple question format? First and foremost is with regards to the location. Then the location allows us to understand what's going on in different parts of the world. In most cases, the questions that come from the UK are like this. Questions that come from America are like that. Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Texas, so on and so forth are like this and like that. It gives us a general understanding. And also to see where certain things are spreading. And who's watching and who's listening. And if there's ever a problem or something needs to be retracted or a letter needs to be written or something needs to be edited or someone needs to be reached out towards, it makes it halfway easier when we have a general idea of the actual location. Everybody understand this? And there are many people whom we've learned from that would do this. From them, obviously, is Nurun al-Adab, Sheikh Ibn Baz, rahimahullah. On a radio program, they had to mention their country, their town, their state, and their initials or their actual name. And that was the format. Whether you like it, whether you agree with it, you could not get the question unless you what? Everyone understand this or not? So that's with regards to the location, and that's also with regards to the initials of the names. let alone the fact that it makes things more authentic. Because people could just keep making up questions. Or one person can keep asking a question over and over again and hogging it. And obviously people can make up fake names, they can make up fake locations, but it's at least a step, what? Into managing it. So this brother, this sister, fulan, we know that it's time for someone else's question. Everyone understand this? This is one of those wisdoms. As far as the time, then obviously there are a lot of questions and it's only me, unfortunately. Everyone understand this? So we try to minimize the answers, cut out this. We don't always mention the dalil when it comes to the marathon. Not saying that there's no dalil. That buzzer mean at the time is what? Is up. Next question. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah hayyikum. Disciple from Chester, PA. May Allah bless the brothers and the sisters there. Ameen. Many good friends there. Alhamdulillah. Good old friends in Chester. As far as a detailed discussion on what riba is, then bi'idhnillah ta'ala we'll try our best, but we may not have the ability to do that. Okay? Because that's a long discussion and we may get into trouble if we open up that can of worms. Everyone understand this? And we may not be able, I'm talking about myself, first and foremost, we may not be ready for that yet. To actually discuss the system of riba in detail and for it to be transparent. There's certain practices, certain cups that are full that we're not willing to what? Empty. But we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can do a brief workshop on it. Bidnai ta'ala. And perhaps one thing leads to what? Another. Jazakallah khairan. And brothers, please remind me to format a lecture on this, inshallah.
That's Steve from Munich, Germany. Is it soon to pray 2 rakats and leave in the house and return?
Question comes from Munich, Germany, with regards to is it sunnah to pray when you enter and when you leave your house, etc. And is the hijama sunnah? Some of the people of knowledge, they say that when you enter your home, especially coming from a journey or a trip, you should make 2 rak'ah. And some of them, they may also say, based off of the generality of certain verses out of the Quran and certain narrations, even if they're not the most authentic, with regards to leaving as well. أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق وجعلني من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. Allah says in Surah Al-Isra, أدخلني مدخل صدق. Oh Allah, allow me to enter into a realm of truthfulness, a true entrance. وأخرجني مخرج صدق. And allow me to leave and to exit in a realm of what? Truthfulness. And to make me وَجَعَلْنِي مِن لَدُنْكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا, to the end of the ayah. And there are narrations on that. So some ulama, they say this. Some ulama, they what? They hold that view. As far as the hijama, and that's in brief, obviously, that answer, I don't believe that the hijama is a sunnah. Unless a person does it with the intention of mimicking the Prophet ﷺ to the T. Unless a person has the niyyah that the Prophet did it, so I'm going to do it. Period. Like wearing a turban. If that's not the intention, then I believe that the hijama is like taking medicine or going to the doctors. It's a medicinal practice. It's something that the Arabs did. It's something that the Chinese, these people, those people, they did it. It's medicine. It's medicine, And the narrations about the virtues of the hijama, the days, the nights to get the hijama done, the Isra and the Mi'raj, كلها باطلة. They're all extremely weak narrations. And Allah knows best. Next question.
A.M. from Manchester, UK. Is sin considered divine information or that of choice like the choice of prophet? Talking about not removing the deep trees to the Sahaba.
Clear. Where does it come from? The UK, you said? What city? Manchester. Type. Question comes from Manchester. With regards to, is a tibb nabawi, prophetic medicine, or the Prophet's medicine, is it divinely inspired? Is it divine revelation? Or does it apply to the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ gave them advice about the date palm trees and how to impregnate them and what to do? And they listened to the Prophet ﷺ and the trees went bad. And then he said to them, Antum a'lamu bi shu'uni dunyakum. He says, you know of your worldly affairs more than me. It's a very good question. And it's a follow-up question of the previous question that came from Germany with regards to the cupping. And alhamdulillah, subhanAllah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, but I didn't have enough time. As we've said before, we've explained this before. The Prophet's medicine is divided into two categories. Two types. The first type of Prophet's medicine is that which is clearly mentioned to be divine or divinely inspired. This medicine came from heaven. This fruit was sent down to me. Allah told me there's a cure in this. The Quran mentions about honey, about milk, about this, about that. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that the believer is similar to a tree, the date palm tree. That's one thing. And then there's the second category, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he did nothing more than seek remedy and seek cure. And also before cure and remedy is to maintain one's health and to prevent sickness through the customs of 7th century Arabia. 7th century Arabia. That which they did, that which they knew, that which was from their original practices, or that which they got from the Greeks, or the Romans, or the Egyptians, or the Persians, or the Africans, or the Ethiopians. Everyone understand this? That's what they did. And it is not divinely inspired. There is no hadith saying that it's a cure. There's no hadith saying this. There's no ayah saying that. It's medicine of 7th century what? Arabia. Let alone of later generations like Ibn Qayyim, in which Ibn Qayyim talks about celery, and he talks about rice, and he talks about this. There was no rice in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The rice didn't come to the Arabian Peninsula except for the time of the Tabi'een. You understand this? There was no rice. That's why you'll never find a hadith about rice. Every hadith that talks about meat and food is always bread or sauce. Everyone understand this? Milk, leban, haisa. Everyone understand this? It's never a what? There's no hadith about aruz. Because rice came what? Came later on. Everybody clear on this or not? So therefore, the black seed, honey, different things like this, there's no question about that is divinely inspired. The other things, such as hijama or other practices, is what the Arabs did. If you want to do it, then do it. And if you don't want to do it, what? You don't have to do it. What's hypocritical, and I'm going to say this about many people today, is that they say certain things are haram, or certain things are bid'ah, or certain things are sihr, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, but you go to the doctors. When you go to the doctors, what are they using on you? Tib Nabawi? Or are they using something else that you don't understand and you don't comprehend? And you faithfully do what? You sit down, you lay down, and you let the doctor do whatever the doctor wants to do to you. So there's a difference between that which is this and that which is what? And this will save you from a lot of contradictions. Everybody clear on this or not? Let alone the fact that the Tib Nabawi, the book of Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, is not a specific book. The book that's been translated says the Prophet's medicine is not a book that Ibn Qayyim wrote. That's a section of Zadul Ma'ad. That's a section of a bigger work, provisions for the hereafter. So the Prophet, Ibn Qayyim talks about the Prophet's prayer, the Prophet's iman, the Prophet's fasting, the Prophet's hijrah, the Prophet's jihad, the Prophet's wives. And he also spoke about the Prophet's way of healing and health and medicine. Everybody understand this? We did a 3-part khutbah, or 3 series, three khutbahs on this. We have the cure for your sickness about 2 years ago, directly from Zadul Ma'ad. Many people, they think that's a separate book that has different rulings. It's all the same. And Allah knows best. Ahmed.
Is it true that slaves have like a different aura from like a normal person?
Question says, is it true that slaves have a different aura from free men or free women? Yes and no. Yes and no. The yes part is that there are certain responsibilities that slaves don't have in Islam. And there are certain responsibilities that slaves do have that free people don't. Obviously, slavery is a part of life. If it's a part of life, then it has to be something about it in the what? In the Sharia. That's common sense. Slavery is a part of life. And there's been slaves for what? Centuries. And there are slaves to this day. In one form or another. There are certain people that are physical slaves to this day. I know. Trust me. You'll be shocked. Human trafficking. Prostitution. children working, and to this day, slaves, and they can't get away in the United States. And there are slaves in other forms: slavery of debt, slavery of riba, slavery of this, etc. So there's always going to be a master and a slave. The human being is always going to be greedy. The human being is always going to be aggressive. The human being is always going to be cowardly and scared and afraid and just naturally weak, physically weak, mentally weak, financially weak. That's how life is. It's always going to be like that. On one level, what? Doesn't mean we try to enslave people. Doesn't mean we don't wish to free slave. We're not saying that. But that's human what? Human nature. It's human what? Human nature. So with that being said, since it's a part of human nature and it's a part of life and death, then there's going to be what? It has to be rulings on it. And that's the beauty of Islam. Is that there's nothing about life that Islam has not given some type of legislation on. Specific or general or mixture of both. Are we clear on this or not? We have specific rulings of marriage in Islam. It's impermissible for you to be with your wife in this manner. And we also have general guidelines. وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Treat them what? Kindly. That's a general rule. Treat your wife what? You know how many things are included in Abu Sa'id? When it comes to feeding your wife, house, time, kullu shay is included in that ayah. Treat them what? Kindly. Everyone understand this? And we also have specific rulings on marriage. So therefore, there are certain rulings that pertain to slaves. Certain prayers that they don't have to make and go to, such as Jumu'ah. Certain things that they don't have to do, such as zakat and sadaqah, things like this. And then there are other issues in which they're just like those who are what? Free. There's no difference. They're human beings, and they're held responsible for their deeds. Clear on this or not? And the same applies to their awla. There's, as far as hadith, then in my limited knowledge, there's not too many strong hadiths on the topic. To my limited knowledge, there aren't too many, if any, strong hadiths on the topic. And you'll find a speech of the fuqaha pertaining slaves and what they have to wear, whether it's a man or a woman. A slave's awrah is like this, a woman's awrah, you can see her breast from her knee to her navel, etc. But you're not going to find actual speech from the Prophet that's really strong in abundance. So from that aspect, you'll find speech of the ulama regarding that. But from another aspect, we have proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah that give guidelines. And those guidelines, Wallahu la yuhibbul fasad. One guideline is Allah does not love corruption. Allah does not love what? Corruption. So if one says that a slave woman can walk around and her breasts can be out and swing in public in front of everybody, what would that lead to? Everyone understand this? If a person says that a slave can dress in any fashion, in any manner, and they can be in a household and they like this and mix, and there's no guidelines, that's going to lead to what? And Allah clearly said in the Quran that He does not love what? Fasad. وَلَا يَرْضَى لِعِبَادِهِ الْكُفْرِ. Allah is never pleased with His servants doing kufr. Are we understand this or not? So there are general rules. So from one aspect, they're just like free people. And from another aspect, there's certain rulings due to the nature of their lives and what they do that are different from those who aren't in bondage. Clear on this? And Allah knows best.
KB from Charleston, West Virginia. Salam alaikum. What is a good systematic way to address those who think Islam may be the truth, but say there are so many different religions, ideologies, etc.?
Question come from Charleston, West Virginia. What advice would you give with regards to a systematic approach on someone who's interested in accepting Islam? Islam may be the truth, but there's so many other religions, there's so many different ideologies. They all have their good and their bad, so on and so forth. I would say a good way is to accept and then offer. Accepting and offering. And many people, they're heedless on this basic principle. Most people don't want to accept anything. They're talking to a Christian or a Jew or an atheist or a 5%er or some Muslim who's from Ahlul Bid'ah, actual Ahlul Bid'ah, and not a Sunni Muslim, a scholar or a student of knowledge that's on the Sunnah that you don't like or you're jealous and you call them Ahlul Bid'ah. Or a Muslim, a masjid in which they're cab drivers, they're immigrants. They don't know much about Islam. Their country was taken over by the British and the French. They came to America searching for a better lifestyle. And he said, Ahlul Bid'ah, don't go with them, don't go sit with them. He said, Awam al-Muslimin, ya akhi, these are layman Muslims. They're practicing nothing except for that which they learned from the people in their country. And if they're given something better and clearer, inshallah, they'll do what? they'll take that. Bi'idhnillah. Everyone understand this? But that's a different discussion in itself. What's important is most people that aren't willing to accept anything. I'll accept that this is true. There's no doubt about it. Can a person say that they're quote unquote good Christians? Meaning Christians that do charity, Christians that help out, Christians that have good character, Christians that don't fornicate and steal? You can't deny that. One of them is my neighbor. My Muslim neighbor treats me worse than the what? The Christian neighbor. This is reality, unfortunately. When I moved into the neighborhood, the Christian lady came with a what? A plate of cookies. Said, welcome to the neighborhood. The Muslim who lived down the street, he looks at me funny. Why are you moving in the neighborhood? You're black. It's a reality. No one can deny this. A few years back, I was in New Jersey. Uncle Faz, he invited me to give a speech at a brother's house for an event there. So I went there, I gave the speech, and it was full of Muslims and also non-Muslims, men, women, and children. Everyone understand this or not? Men, women, and what? And children. So, alhamdulillah, most of the Muslims, they accepted the speech in a good way. But of course, there are going to be many Muslims that are going to have different stereotypes and negative views. Why is he speaking? He's too young. He doesn't have a beard. He doesn't have a big belly. He's black. He has on a short thobe. He's a Wahhabi. He's this. He's that. This is real. We can have sugar on a cake, or we can do what? Eat a vegan donut. And which is no what? Everyone understand? Let's keep it real. Many people are like this. So there's some people that want to say alhamdulillah, a handshake, a hug. Some people are going to make a sour face. And there are going to be many non-Muslims that are going to walk. They came up to me, wow, that was an excellent speech. That was great. Where are you from? Where'd you study? Where's your family from? You're really an American. Wow, that was great. Where'd you learn Arabic? So after the speech, we went out to the yard and we had food. So Allah knows best how many Muslims were at that event. The Muslims that came up to me, wanted to speak, asked me, what do you want to eat? Do you want me to get the food? Because the food was across the yard. I can count on one hand. And from the people who came up to me and asked me what I wanted to eat, let me get you some cake, was a white lady and her daughter. A white lady and daughter. They weren't Muslim, they were Catholics. She was polite, she was cordial. She said, you're the one that gave the speech, the wonderful speech here. Let me bring you some cake. Let me bring you some food. Let me bring you some of this. How many Muslims did that? Everyone understand this? So you can't deny and reject the fact that some kuffar may be practicing certain aspects of Islam, what? Better than certain Muslims, such as racism, or such as a basic etiquette of hospitality. This is in my house, the white lady said, but I live down the street. You're from Philadelphia, so it's my job to do what? Get you some cake and get you some lemonade. And the Muslims are looking like, oh yeah, right, that's the guy who just gave the speech, right? Let him sit there. I understand the point I'm trying to get to? So in Dawa and having an argument and a debate, oftentimes you have to use the technique of what? Accepting. And don't always be what? Have your guard up. That's not true. There's no good Christians. There's no good Buddhists. There's no good... No, that's not true. Sometimes you have to do what? Accept. And then once you accept, you do what? Then you offer. I'll agree with you that there are many types of Muslims. No doubt about that. Go on YouTube. You find all types of stuff. You find Muslims hitting themselves with swords, if they're even Muslims. You find people saying that it's permissible to blow this person up and kill this person. You find all of this on YouTube. And you'll find different types of Christians and different types of Jews. All Jews don't agree with the illegal occupation in Palestine. You'd be shocked. Some of the strongest fighters for the rights of Palestinians are what? Are Jews. And they look at Zionists as an embarrassment to Jews. They're not Jews, they're filthy, wicked criminals that stole someone's country and the rest of the world is scared to say anything. You'll find many Jews who talk like this. And then you'll find other Jews who have the what? Exact opposite. This is our land and God promised us to it. God promised us this land. And the rest of the world has to believe in what we believe God said to us. That's amazing. Why does the rest of the world have to do what? Agree with your personal conviction. What if someone says, I'm an atheist? I don't believe in God. So give Palestinians their land back. Or at least give them half the land back. Okay, the British gave it to you, the 1948 mandate, or 1918, whatever date, whatever mandate you want to use. At least give them what? Half the land. No, the Jews, they'll own all of it. Some different types of Jews. We can't deny this, guys. But the crucial point is what? Is to make an example of money. Then obviously, everybody wants money. Every human being is naturally inclined towards what? The love of wealth, as Allah says in the Quran. So in my wallet here is a dollar bill. $2 bills, right? Right? Dead presidents, right? So this is what we use for money. We don't use gold nuggets and silver shillings anymore. So this dollar bill here, I need it to buy something or to go somewhere. Right or wrong? So we all know the value of the dollar bill, the mighty dollar bill. So with that being said, isn't it possible for someone to do what? Make counterfeit money? Why pay for it? Why not make my own money? Is it possible or impossible? It's possible. So there are different types of money out there. There's good money and there's what? And there's bad money. So how do we protect ourselves against counterfeit? How do we protect ourselves against a fake 100 or fake 20 or fake 50? You do what? You look up, How do you protect yourselves? There are ways in which the people who make money have done what? Have placed, whether it's a pen, or whether it's a machine, or whether it's a watermark, and the list goes on. Everybody clear this or not? You get a $100 bill from what? Let's say 19. When did they start putting the strip inside of the $100 bill? Anybody know? Longer than that. Huh? No. Nah, the strip, and it's for many years. There's certain $100 bills that have no strips, and they're what? They're real. But if you don't know about the date, you're going to think it's what? You're going to think it's fake, but it's an actual authentic bill. So the point is that there are ways of determining what's real and what's what? What's fake. So you say to them in Islam, I agree and I accept that there are certain bad Muslims. No doubt about that. That's a reality, unfortunately. There are certain Muslims that are what? Bad. And I'll accept that there are certain Christians or Jews or Hindus or atheists who are what? You guys are scared to say it now. See how you lost the argument? The argument is what now? I mean, you lost it because you refuse to accept. You don't have to accept everything, but you have to what? You have to allow the person something. There are certain non-Muslims who are good, no doubt. The lady brought me the stuff. There's no doubt about it. There are certain non-Muslims who understand that racism is evil and ugly 100 times better than what? Muslims. You understand this? However, the reason why you have to be a Muslim is not the fact that it's an optional faith. It's obligatory. It's not a choice. And number two, in Islam, we have markers. We have watermarks. We have money machines. We can determine and decipher the true Islam from the what? The fake Islam. Christians don't have that. Jews don't have that. Buddhists don't have that. Hindus don't have that. And if they did have a money marker, then the money marker is now what? It's outdated. It's outdated. Everyone understand the system here? Islam came. So that which came before Islam of the true Christianity is now what? It's abrogated. It's canceled. Let alone the fact that most Christians are going to be practicing a strain of Christianity that is what? Fake, counterfeit. Paul, or this saint, or that saint, or this one, and that's not from the words of Christ, nor of his disciples. But in Islam, we do have a what? A system. We can tell this is counterfeit. These Muslims who say that they're Muslim, or this is Islam, no, that's culture. That's haram. You can't do that. You can't do this. And this here is the what? Everybody understand this? Christians can say the same as well. There's a true Christianity. There are certain Christians who are closer to Christianity than what? Than others. But we say that Islam has now done what now? It's a big face. That big face is no longer anymore. It's a new $100 bill. Everyone understand this? And that is the Quran and the Sunnah. And the proof that Islam is the latest version and the last version is that Jesus, Moses, Abraham, they're all mentioned where? In the Quran. And not the opposite. In that type of detail. So that's what I would say. And I would give a logical argument to someone. And the same applies to a Muslim who's confused about which Dawa group to follow. Should I be this? Should I be that? Should I be Salafi, Tablighi, Sururi, Ikhwani, Hizb Tahrir, this group, that group, this masjid? They all say they're Salafi in one city, 5 masjids. Which one should I go to? I would say go to the one that has the what? The crispest what? The crispest bills. The most authentic bills. And there is a way of determining counterfeit money from what? From real money. Or one may say the exact opposite. Those who have stiff dollar bills, stay away from them. Because their money is what? It's new. Even if it's real, it's what? I want the one that has the old smelly money that's been there for what? Meaning that's authentic. These brothers have been practicing in the Sunnah 30 years ago. Before this shit came, and before this group came, and before this offshoot in this denomination. I don't understand this. And that has to mean something. That's the what? And that's why every business says established 100 years ago. Established 30 years ago. Established in 1980. Established in... meaning we've survived so many years. It has to mean something about our what? Our establishment. So this is what I would say. Is that Islam, there are different types of Islam. No doubt about that. There are different types of what? Muslims. We don't differ on that. There are different types of Christians and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists. But we have the ultimate way of determining what's sahih and that which is muzayyaf. That which is made up, fake, false, counterfeit, and phony. Hopefully this makes sense. I believe so. Just try it out. Inshallah ta'ala, and you see how it will work. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad. I'm sorry for taking so long on this one answer, but obviously there's certain answers that cannot be done in 2 minutes. And Allah knows best.
April 1992.
92. So that means if the 100 comes for